You can grow old with serenity or with bitterness, and the choice, according to Native American elders, begins with a single habit. Margaret was 74 years old when she sat down at her kitchen table one Sunday morning and realized that no one had called. Not her daughter in Ohio, not her son who lived 40 minutes away, not even a neighbor stopping by like they used to. She had spent 50 years cooking for other people, raising children, caring for a sick husband, showing up for everyone who needed her. She had given her best years, her best energy, her best self to the people she loved most. And now, the kitchen was quiet. She looked at the old photographs on the wall, holidays, birthdays, a summer at the lake when the kids were small, and she whispered something to herself that she had never said out loud before. I spent my whole life giving everything I had. So why do I feel like I have nothing left? That question right there is what this video is about, because Margaret's story is not rare. It is the story of millions of people who arrive at their 70s and 80s carrying something heavy without even knowing what it is. Something that quietly steals joy, dims the light, and makes the days feel longer and emptier than they should. The elders knew what that something was, and today we are going to talk about it. The habit that destroys happiness after 70, and the 5 teachings that can help you let it go for good. We will talk about why comparing today to yesterday slowly poisons the present. Why regret becomes a prison most people never realize they are locked inside. Why waiting for recognition from others is one of the loneliest games a person can play. Why trying to control the lives of adult children pushes them further away. And why so many people walk past their own happiness without ever noticing it is right there. Before we continue, take a moment to check if you are already subscribed to this channel, and write in the comments which state or country you are watching from. I always love knowing how far these stories and teachings travel. Long before there were self-help books or therapy sessions or motivational speakers, there were elders. Men and women who had lived long enough to understand things that younger people simply cannot yet see. They sat with the dying. They watched generations rise and fall. They observed the seasons change, the rivers shift, the trees survive storms that should have destroyed them. And from all of that watching, all of that living, they drew wisdom that had nothing to do with politics or history books. It had to do with the human heart. These elders believed that the greatest suffering in old age does not come from illness or loneliness or loss. Though all of those are real and heavy, the greatest suffering, they said, comes from a habit of the mind. A way of seeing life that slowly turns what remains into something that feels like not enough. They called it the habit of looking backward while walking forward, and they spent their entire lives learning how to free themselves from it. The first thing the elders noticed was this. Many people in their later years stop living in the life they have and start living in the life they used to have. They wake up in the morning, and the first thought is not about today. It is about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when the house was full of voices, when the body moved without pain, when the future still felt like something wide and open. There was a man named Harold who retired at 68 after working as a carpenter for 40 years. He was good at his work, really good. His hands had built things that still stood, and when he retired, his family threw him a party. Everyone told him how proud they were, and for a few weeks he felt fine. But then something shifted. Every morning Harold would drive past the old job site. He would look at younger men doing the work he used to do and feel something tight in his chest. At dinner, he would tell his wife about how things were done better before, how neighborhoods used to be closer, how kids used to respect their elders more, how life used to feel like it meant something. His wife loved him, but she started eating dinner faster. An elder once said that comparing today to yesterday is like demanding that autumn apologize for not being summer. The season did not fail you. It simply changed. And every season, if you let it, carries its own kind of beauty. Harold's hands still knew how to build things. His grandchildren still wanted to learn from him. His wife still reached for his hand in the dark. But he was so busy grieving the past that he could not feel any of it. The teaching is this: your past was real and it was good, and it deserves to be remembered with gratitude. But gratitude looks back. Life moves forward. The elder who is truly free is the one who can hold the past gently without asking it to come back. Before I share the next teaching, one quick thing. Everything I have been preserving from these old ways, the lessons about silence, aging, inner peace, loneliness, and the things the modern world slowly made people forget. I have written it all down, gathered the way the elders once passed wisdom from one generation to another. It is called The Last Teachings. The link is in the first comment. The second habit that destroys happiness after 70 is regret that has been left to grow wild. Everyone carries regrets. Every single person alive has something they wish they had done differently. A conversation they never had, a chance they let pass, a person they hurt or did not love well enough, or left without saying what needed to be said. That is not the problem. The problem is when regret stops being a memory and becomes a residence. There was a woman named Dorothy who had raised 4 children, mostly on her own, after her husband left when the youngest was still in diapers. She did everything she could. She worked 2 jobs. She showed up to every school play she could manage, missed a few she couldn't. She loved her children with everything she had. But when her children grew up and built their own lives, Dorothy began keeping a list inside her heart. All the moments she had missed, all the times she had been too tired to be patient, all the ways she felt she had fallen short. She carried that list every day, and it made her hard to be around, because every visit from her children became an unspoken apology, and every moment of happiness felt like something she had not quite earned. The elders understood regret deeply. They had lived long enough to make real mistakes, but they also understood this. A wound that you keep pressing does not heal. They would say, the past is like a fire that has already burned. You can stand in the ashes looking for what was lost, or you can use what remains to warm yourself tonight. Dorothy's children did not need a perfect mother. They needed the mother who was still here, and she was too busy apologizing for the past to be present in the now. Regret honored is wisdom. Regret lived in is a cage. The elder who is truly at peace has learned to say, I did what I knew how to do then. Today I know more. And today is what I still have. There is a habit that almost no one talks about, but nearly everyone over 70 carries in some form. It is the quiet, aching need to be seen, to be thanked, to be told that the sacrifice mattered, that the years of hard work were noticed, that the love that was given was received and appreciated. And when that recognition does not come, when children seem too busy, when grandchildren seem too distracted, when friends have drifted or passed away, that waiting turns into something that looks a lot like bitterness. Robert spent 35 years building a small business from nothing. He worked Saturdays, he missed vacations, he drove a modest car so his kids could go to good schools. And when his son took over the business and immediately began changing everything Robert had built, Robert felt something break quietly inside him. He never said anything directly, but he made small comments. He showed up unannounced to check on things. He told the story of how hard things used to be whenever anyone would listen. He was not trying to cause trouble. He was asking a question he did not know how to ask out loud. Did it matter? Did I matter? The elders knew this feeling, and they had a teaching for it that was simple and almost painful in how true it was. They said, if you plant a tree for the shade it will give others, you cannot also demand that it turn around and thank you for planting it. You gave what you gave because it was right to give it, because you loved, because you were trying. The giving itself was the meaning. The love itself was the reward. Robert's son had changed the business because he was trying to make his father proud in a different way. He just did not know how to say it, and Robert never asked. The recognition you are waiting for may already be there. It may just be speaking a language you have not yet learned to hear. There is a tree that grows in the mountains that the elders knew well. In its early years it needs shelter. It needs protection from frost, from wind, from animals that might uproot it before it has found its footing. A wise person tends to it carefully, makes sure it has water and light, clears the ground around it so it has room to grow. But there comes a season, and it always comes, when that tree no longer needs the same tending. It has roots of its own now, deep ones. And if you keep sheltering it, keep cutting back the wind, keep trying to shape its branches the way you want them to grow, you do not help it, you limit it, and you exhaust yourself. Many people arrive at their 70s having spent decades being the person their family depended on. They were the ones with the answers, the ones who held everything together, the ones everyone turned to, and then their children became adults and made decisions. And sometimes those decisions were different from what the parent would have chosen. Different careers, different partners, different ways of raising grandchildren, different values, or at least values that looked different from the outside. And instead of watching their children grow into their own wisdom, many parents start pulling, giving advice that was not asked for, making comments that carry the weight of judgment, feeling personally wounded by choices that had nothing to do with them. The elder would say, "You raised the tree. That was your great work, and it was good work. Now your work is to stand beside it and admire what it became, not to keep shaping it into what you imagined it would be." The relationship with your adult children is one of the most precious things you have left. And it is protected not by holding tighter, but by learning slowly, beautifully to let go. This is the one the elders spoke of most quietly and most carefully, because they knew it was the deepest wound of all. At some point in life, most people begin to count what they have lost. The friends who are gone, the health that has faded, the opportunities that passed, the version of themselves that no longer exists, the years that are behind rather than ahead. And that counting, that constant unconscious inventory of loss, becomes the lens through which everything is seen. A beautiful morning feels bittersweet. A grandchild's laugh carries a shadow. A quiet afternoon feels not like peace, but like emptiness. There was a woman named Eleanor who was 79 years old and had survived more than most people could imagine. She had outlived her husband, one of her children, several of her closest friends. She had watched her body change in ways she had not chosen. She had moved from the house she had lived in for 40 years into something smaller and quieter. And still, every single morning, Eleanor sat on her small porch with a cup of coffee and found something. Not because her life was easy, not because loss had not found her, but because an elder had once told her something she had never forgotten. He said, "The fire does not mourn the wood it has already burned. It gives its warmth and its light fully, with what it has right now, in this moment." Eleanor found the warmth of the coffee in her hands. She found the sound of birds she could still name. She found the letter from her granddaughter on the table inside. She found the fact that she was still here, still breathing, still capable of sitting on a porch and feeling the morning air. This is the hardest teaching and the most important one, because it does not ask you to pretend that loss is not real. It asks you something different. It asks, can you let what remains be enough? Not everything, not what used to be, but what is here, today, in this moment that is still yours. The elders who aged with the most grace were not the ones who had the easiest lives. They were the ones who had learned to be grateful for the presence of things before they became absences. So here is what the elders knew, gathered simply and clearly. Comparing today to what used to be is a habit that steals the life you are actually living. Regret, when it becomes a place you live rather than a lesson you carry, turns slowly into a prison. Waiting for others to recognize your worth places your happiness in hands that may never deliver it. Holding on too tightly to your adult children pushes away the very closeness you are trying to preserve, and forgetting to see what remains, truly see it, deeply and with gratitude, is the quietest and most common way that joy slips away unnoticed. None of these habits are flaws. They are human. They are understandable. They are the natural result of living a long life with love and loss woven through every year of it. But the elders believed that seeing them clearly is the first step toward being free of them. Think of a river, not a young river, wild and fast and crashing over everything in its path. An old river, a wide, slow, ancient river that has been moving through the land for longer than anyone can remember. That river has carved canyons. It has changed its course more times than anyone could count. It has flooded and it has run low. It has carried enormous things and let them go. It has passed through seasons of ice and seasons of drought and seasons of abundance, and still it moves, not because it is chasing something, not because it is running from something, but because moving forward, with whatever water it has, in whatever channel it finds itself, is simply what it does. It does not grieve the mountains it no longer passes through. It does not demand that the land reshape itself to match some earlier version of the river's path. It does not slow itself to wait for recognition from the trees along its banks. It simply flows, fully, quietly, with all of its history carried gently inside it. That is what the elders were pointing toward their whole lives. Not the absence of loss, not a return to youth, not the approval of others or the control of outcomes or the rewriting of the past. Just this, just the river, still moving, still giving light to whatever is near the surface, still carving something beautiful even now, even here, even in the slowest and most quiet part of the journey. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Last Teachings, 60 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together beside the fire. And with it, you will also receive completely free a bonus teaching called The Secrets of the First Hour, about the quiet habits the elders protected before sunrise. The link is in the first comment. Margaret eventually stopped waiting for the phone to ring, not because she gave up, but because she started filling the silence with something else. She started calling first. She started walking in the mornings. She started noticing things she had walked past for years without seeing. And slowly, very slowly, the kitchen felt less empty. Not because everything had changed, but because she had. The elders lived long enough to learn something that most people only begin to understand at the very end, if they understand it at all. That happiness after 70 is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose again and again in the small and quiet moments of every ordinary day. So here is the question they would leave you with, and it is not a hard question, but it is an honest one. What is still here in your life right now that you have not yet allowed yourself to fully receive?